Lecture 11. The Rise of China and Global Power Shift. 1. Introduction. The rise of China is one of the most important developments in contemporary international relations. For much of the 20th century, global politics was shaped first by European imperial powers, then by the Cold War rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union, and after 1991 by American unipolar dominance. However, in the 21st century, China's rapid economic growth, military modernization, technological development, and global diplomatic activism have created a major shift in the distribution of global power. China's rise does not simply mean that one country has become wealthier. It means that the structure of world politics is changing. The United States remains the world's most powerful state in many areas, but China has become a serious economic, technological, military, and diplomatic competitor. This has produced debates about whether the world is moving from a U.S.-led liberal international order toward a more multipolar order, or whether the 21st century will be shaped by strategic rivalry between the United States and China. This lecture examines four major dimensions of China's rise: economic growth and modernization, China's global strategy, the Belt and Road Initiative, and military and technological expansion. 2. Economic growth and modernization. China's rise began with economic transformation. After the death of Mao Zedong, Deng Xiaoping introduced reform and opening up policies from 1978 onward. These reforms moved China away from a rigid command economy toward a more market-oriented socialist system. China allowed foreign investment, created special economic zones, expanded export manufacturing, and gradually integrated itself into the global economy. The results were historically remarkable. China became the world's factory, producing textiles, electronics, machinery, consumer goods, and later more advanced industrial products. Its accession to the World Trade Organization in 2001 accelerated this transformation. Global corporations relocated production to China, and China became deeply embedded in global supply chains. However, China's modernization is not only about cheap labor and export manufacturing. Over time, China has tried to move from low-cost production to advanced manufacturing and technological innovation. Policies such as Made in China 2025 emphasized sectors such as robotics, electric vehicles, aerospace, artificial intelligence, semiconductors, biotechnology, and high-speed rail. Recent data show both strength and weakness in China's economy. The World Bank reported that China's real GDP expanded by 5.3% year-on-year in the first half of 2025, supported by macroeconomic policies and strong exports. Yet the same World Bank analysis also points to weaker domestic demand, cautious household spending, and pressure from the property sector. This reveals an important paradox. China is still a major engine of global growth, but its old development model is under stress. For decades, China relied on exports, infrastructure investment, real estate expansion, and high savings. Today, it faces slowing population growth, youth unemployment pressures, local government debt, property market weakness, and rising geopolitical restrictions from Western countries. Thus, China's modernization has entered a new stage. It is no longer simply trying to grow fast. It is trying to grow strategically. The state is directing resources toward advanced industry, technological self-reliance, domestic innovation, and supply chain security. This reflects a broader idea. Economic power is now inseparable from national security. 3. China's global strategy. China's global strategy is based on the belief that the international order is changing. Chinese leaders argue that Western dominance is declining and that the world is moving toward multipolarity. In this context, China presents itself as a defender of national sovereignty, development rights, non-interference, and alternative forms of globalization. China's strategy has several layers. First, China seeks regional influence in Asia. It wants to prevent encirclement by U.S. alliances and to increase its power in East Asia, Southeast Asia, and the Western Pacific. Taiwan, the South China Sea, and the East China Sea are central to this regional strategy. Second, China seeks global economic influence. It uses trade, investment, development finance, infrastructure construction, digital technology, and energy partnerships to deepen relations with countries in Asia, Africa, Latin America, the Middle East, and Europe. Third, China seeks institutional influence. It participates in existing institutions such as the United Nations, World Trade Organization, International Monetary Fund, and World Bank. But it also promotes alternative or China-led platforms, such as the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, BRICS expansion, and the Belt and Road Initiative. Fourth, China promotes new global initiatives. Under Xi Jinping, China has introduced the Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, and Global Civilization Initiative. From a realist perspective, China's global strategy can be understood as a rising power, seeking greater influence, security, and recognition. From a liberal perspective, China is using economic interdependence and institutions to expand its role. From a constructivist perspective, China is also trying to reshape global norms by presenting a different model of development, governance, and international order. 4. Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. The Belt and Road Initiative is one of the most visible instruments of China's global strategy. Announced by Xi Jinping in 2013, the BRI consists of the Silk Road Economic Belt and the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road. Its stated purpose is to improve connectivity through infrastructure, trade, investment, finance, and people-to-people exchange. The official BRI narrative emphasizes cooperation, connectivity, development, and shared prosperity. China presents the initiative as a way to address infrastructure, gaps in developing countries, and to promote global economic integration. The official Belt and Road Portal describes the BRI as a project for high-quality development and a green, open global economy. In practice, the BRI includes railways, ports, roads, energy pipelines, power plants, industrial parks, telecommunications networks, digital platforms, and logistics corridors. Important examples include the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the China-Laos Railway, port projects in South Asia, and Africa, and infrastructure investment across Central Asia and the Middle East. Recent analysis suggests that the BRI is changing rather than disappearing. One report found that 2025 saw very high BRI engagement, including major construction contracts and investment, while Reuters described a shift towards smaller projects, equity investment, and soft connectivity through standards and systems. However, the BRI is controversial. Critics argue that some projects create debt burdens, environmental damage, corruption risks, and political dependency. Therefore, the BRI should not be understood only as an economic project. It is also a geopolitical strategy. 5. Military and technological expansion. China's rise is also visible in military modernization. The People's Liberation Army has transformed from a large but relatively outdated force into a more advanced military power. China has invested in naval power, missile systems, air power, cyber capabilities, space capabilities, artificial intelligence, electronic warfare, and nuclear modernization. The U.S. Department of Defense has reported that China's military modernization is driven by increased defense spending and technological development. It also states that China continues to accelerate military technologies, including artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and hypersonic missiles. China's Navy is now one of the most important parts of its military rise. As China becomes more dependent on global trade, energy imports, and overseas interests, it needs a navy capable of operating beyond its immediate coastline. This is especially important in the South China Sea, Taiwan Strait, Indian Ocean, and Western Pacific. Missile development is another central area. China has invested heavily in anti-access and area denial capabilities. These systems are designed to make it difficult for U.S. forces to operate near China's coast in a crisis. In particular, China's missile forces are central to its strategy toward Taiwan and the broader Indo-Pacific region. Nuclear modernization is also significant. China has historically maintained a smaller nuclear force than the United States and Russia, but it is now expanding and modernizing its nuclear capabilities. This development could affect strategic stability, arms control, and crisis management. Technology is closely connected to military power. China sees artificial intelligence, semiconductors, quantum computing, space systems, drones, robotics, and cyber capabilities as essential to future warfare. This is why the U.S.-China rivalry is not only a trade conflict, it is also a technological and security competition. China's technological rise is especially visible in electric vehicles, batteries, solar panels, telecommunications, digital platforms, facial recognition, drones, and high-speed rail. At the same time, China remains vulnerable in some advanced semiconductor technologies, which is why the United States and its allies have imposed export controls. On key chips and manufacturing equipment, the technological competition has three dimensions. Economically, both sides want leadership in future industries. Militarily, advanced technologies affect weapons, intelligence, and command systems. Politically, digital technology shapes governance models, surveillance,